Hello, this is the 69th Test from the Future, an experimental podcast from the year 2222, which we are sending from our present to yours. My name is Dirk.
And my name is Simon.
And we're putting the past in podcast. Okay, so the topic for today is floating cities.
Yes, it is, but I think you've forgotten something.
What's that?
Happy birthday.
Ah, yes, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Is that today?
That's today.
Also to our listeners. Happy birthday, listeners.
Exactly. Happy birthday to you listening to us in 2022.
You think it's also happy birthday now in 2022?
Most definitely. It's a long established holiday.
And it's exactly 200 years ago. Must be happy birthday.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, to the day, no doubt.
Although it's the last Saturday in July, right? So if it's exactly... Good question, actually. Do our episodes release...
all this time, that's what my assumption has been, It's not just 200 years, but then some other random day of the week.
But is today, 200 years ago, also a Saturday?
Must be.
Yeah, it must be. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, or Sunday, maybe?
No, probably Saturday. Let's say it's a Saturday.
Okay.
So happy birthday, people of the 21st century. Or you reckon they don't have happy birthday?
No, like I say, it's such a... some holidays, they come, they go, it's clear that they've been invented recently, but this one feels like one that's been around a long time, at least.
It was there when I was a kid. We celebrated happy birthday.
Yeah.
So you reckon we should explain what it is? Just in case?
Right, because maybe it's celebrated not all over the world back 200 years ago. So depending where our listeners are, they might not know it.
Okay. Then it's a day where we celebrate birds, basically.
Yeah.
We eat buns shaped like birds. We dress up in clothes that have feathers or feathery things or feathery patterns, although I have to admit I didn't do it.
I know. Yeah, sure. Not today. You forgot about it looed like. I did not. See,
but also that's why I was still caught off guard, because you still have your wings. I hadn't noticed
you thought it was just
feather pattern. Okay. Man, I've been here for an hour and only realized now it's happy birthday. It's really typical happy birthday stuff. People go out for dinner, which I also didn't do.
Oh, you're pretty hungry then?
No, I already ate.
I see what you mean. You didn't go out, like you had dinner, but you didn't go out for a special one.
And of course, like what everybody does at happy birthday is give each other presents.
Most definitely.
For discounts.
Yeah.
That's obviously,
that's what makes a holiday a holiday.
Yeah.
It's integral to all good holidays.
Also, I actually didn't check my messages like the last couple of hours.
Well, you probably had some people wishing you a happy birthday.
And also like a bunch of newsletters explaining about the discounts and so on, where you get discounts.
Right, in that sense, it's pretty impressive that you didn't realize it was today.
Yeah, but whenever we work on a podcast, I try to not go through my messages. Sometimes I get stuck.
Sure.
And if it's a newsletter about discounts, especially on happy birthday, then it's not just for bird stuff. Because you get discounts on everything.
Right, yeah.
I
think if you're a bird, you get a greater discount, but everyone gets a discount.
And it's basically the marketing material has birds on it, but the discounts are on everything. And you have, like the presents you give, the wrapping paper has birds on them, but the presents you gave can be anything. Basically, you buy something with a discount, you wrap it in the bird wrapping paper, you give it to your friends.
Yeah.
Okay. But a good thing we have a few hours left still today. I'm going to do some shopping afterwards.
Yeah.
Especially the last couple of hours on happy birthday are usually really big on this.
Right. That's when everything builds to a head.
Okay. The parade.
You missed it.
I missed it.
It was pretty good.
Man, next time we should record in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cool.
Then we can remember all these things and then actually go do them.
But then maybe if we're not taking too long, I'm gonna hop to Los Angeles. I think the parade, 3:00 parade, we can still make that.
Yeah, I can make that one.
Okay, cool. I'm in a really good happy bird mood now.
Yeah, time zones are helpful like that.
But we can go to the topic now.
Yes, we can. Floating cities.
Floating cities. You want to introduce them?
They're cities what float. Usually above a corresponding city, like they're not just floating above nothing. They're usually built above another city, and then we'll have basically be like a pendant city, related to that one below it. It requires a whole lot of energy for them to stay up in the air. I think we may have mentioned before that, when there's a Mercury blackout, that they still need the power and they are prioritized above everything else.
Yeah, and they also have massive energy reserves and a lot of energy. It's basically all the energy coming to Earth always goes over, or like nowadays, goes through also the floating cities to make sure that they...
And that was some justification for why they should be built, was like, hey, they're higher up, they'll intercept the energy from Mercury and make it safe to then transmit down to the ground, because what if the energy goes straight to the ground and blows something up? It was all jibber jabber. It was basically someone wanted to build a floating city and they used that as some justification. And then once one was built, people were like, hey, this is pretty cool, let's build more.
And to be honest, they are pretty cool.
They are.
But like the first ones, I think the first, 50 or so, you can tell. If you visit them now, you can tell if they were like an early floating city.
Sure.
Because the later ones, they're just basically awesome in every way. The later ones, but the early ones, they have all kinds of flaws. And I think you see that a lot in England, where they went overboard.
Yeah.
I think it's
they build them too close together and too low to the ground.
I mean, England is a densely populated country, so I think there was also a bit of need, and of course, it's popular. Like Germany.
To live in the floating city is super popular.
Yeah.
But the downside of them being built so closely together and so low down is that it's basically always night underneath them, or twilight, but not enough sunlight gets down there.
But it's also the thing, like just like Germany, like the region that England is in is awesome for living. Temperate zone. You have basically everything you need, and you can teleport elsewhere if you need to. So a lot of people wanted to live there, so they built a lot of floating cities, making it not so great anymore.
Right, not on the ground.
Yeah, and it's not covering the complete country. You still have pretty countryside, but some places. But have you been to Osalusa or Osalusa up?
I have not. Have you?
I've been to both actually.
So Osalusa up and
Tonganoxie. It's at the Tonganoxie up and Osalusa up were the first two floating cities. I think it was invented there. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure why they were the first. But then the naming was still kind of.
They would just take the name of the city on the ground and add the word up at the end.
Yeah, it's basically like with York. Hey, the people from York found a new city. They called it New York.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was like that.
Sounds reasonable.
And New whatever. There's a lot of New Zealand was named after the original Zealand.
Yeah.
And then Tonganoxie up is named after the city right below. But you still see a lot. Basically, if anything has up below it, after it,
it's a floating city, and named for its pendant.
Exactly, but they were always like you mentioned pendant. Initially they were always a pendant of a city below, kind of like how cities are growing on the outside. Now they were growing upwards.
Yeah.
First with skyscrapers,
right? Not just first tall buildings, but then now actually floating above.
But then now, as you mentioned, the shade became.
So sometimes it's unwanted.
Yeah.
Other places it's really desirable. Makes a place that's too hot to live on the ground much cooler.
Yeah, I've been to El Sombrero in Venezuela. There, it's actually the place above, like El Sombrero itself. There's actually not a whole lot of people living there. They have more. There's like a massive aqua park, and they have a few walls up there and a few other things. But the people are living below El Sombrero in the shade.
Yeah.
Because the temperature
makes a lot of sense.
Exactly, and they have still light.
They've not built them so closely together as in England, so there's still sunlight. There is still daylight. Yeah, but it's much cooler down there.
And also they've put lamps below, and because the energy is there anyway. It wasn't not a big extension to have the lamps below. They should think about that in England. How come
to light it up?
Yeah, exactly. Light it up. But so for most of the other places, it's the shade below is a problem.
Yeah.
So also the newer ones, the newer cities, they have more holes in them.
Yeah, intentionally.
Yeah.
To let light through.
It feels like, a little bit like a Venice up in the air.
Yeah.
Where you basically have like little patches, and then you have bridges between, and then it feels like you have like air canals.
Yeah,
I'm gesturing my hands in the air.
It looks very impressive. It's clear to me what you're doing.
But those, especially the newer designs, also the ones they're building yet, some of them are great, and they change level. So you basically go up and down with stairs and slides, and then the sunlight, depending on where the sun is standing, is shining through either from above or from the side. And because of the different level effects, there's always some sun.
Yeah. And there's been some. It's a bit, I guess, more fragile, so it's not such a popular thing. But I've seen it a couple of places, and it looks beautiful, where they'll have a really huge swimming pool or a lake, or maybe a lake's a bit too big, some large water area up in the floating city with a clear bottom, like glass or whatever, so that the sunlight goes through, and then on the ground below you have the nice ripply light.
I've seen the lake. Wasn't that in Argentina somewhere?
I think so, yeah.
When I saw it was still in construction.
Okay, so you didn't get to see the ripply water.
Yeah, but it's been a while. At least it looked amazing on the visuals that they were creating for it.
Yeah.
But I think that's some really great solutions. But it's also a smarter solution that I thought was building it in the countryside.
That makes a lot of sense.
Just there where there are no people below.
Yeah. Right, because originally they were built with a corresponding city below, but that's not actually necessary. And then you don't block anyone's view or light or whatever. And
then you get to name them completely anew.
Yeah, new names. You don't need to put up on the end anymore.
Exactly, although on top of Ontario, I think one of the most famous ones, because they had the Winter Olympics there, it's just above the countryside, somewhere in Ontario, so they could name it whatever they wanted, and they call it on top of Ontario. I think
it sounded good, I guess.
It does sound good. And there's also, I guess, a bit of marketing, because it's new, you need to establish it, and if it's just called something, then people really don't know where it is. Now with on top of Ontario, everybody knows it's right there.
Yeah.
And with the Winter Olympics, that was awesome. You know, that's putting a city on the map.
Yeah.
And especially, of course, the skiing. I don't know if you saw much of it.
Where they ski from the city all the way down to the floating city all the way down to the ground.
That was amazing.
That was super impressive.
Yeah. So they kept that. You know, it kind of feels like a tiny bit of a mountain, because the skiing slope is still there, but of course there's no mountain below it. But I mean, there's no rule that skiing needs to be on a mountain. It just needs to go from up to down.
Yeah. And the jumps especially are really amazing, you know, so the off the ramp, the skier goes off the ramp, and then there's literally nothing below them for a huge stretch. That
is true, yeah. But it also, I mean, there were a few that, like the bobsleighing, used it, the skeleton, the hoverboarding, obviously, like,
of course,
the winter version.
Yeah.
But that's on top of Ontario. I think that was the most famous ones. But there's been a few. I mean, we have a few famous floating cities. Do you have any favorites?
I like going on. You mentioned slides for a little bit there, but so in the US, in Winnipeg, there's a city there, and you can go from there, not as an Olympic sportsman or whatever, but just sliding all the way down to the ground, water slides.
I've seen
really
that.
Nice.
That's a Winnipeg. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've seen waterfalls.
But where was that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was in Iran somewhere.
Okie doke.
Man, I should brush up on my floating city geography.
Could do.
It's a super famous place. I can't think of it now.
Sure, maybe we'll come to you later.
But I like Babylon. That's
really beautiful.
Yeah. And it was even inspired by some original city that doesn't exist anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a floating city, but you hardly notice that it's a city because there's so much green up there, like parks, and also the buildings that are there. They're not covered in nature, but there's plants and bushes and trees on every balcony, on every roof. Yeah, it's that's a great place, and it's for me. I think the one of the most famous floating cities is Bad City, or
Yeah.
I know it's not called that,
Right, but that's its nickname.
It's I think we may have mentioned. Okay, we mentioned it in the Bacchanal episode. That's in Indonesia, and it's wrapped around one of the pillars. Actually.
Right. Yeah, of the intergalactic escalator.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a floating city that is. It's not completely floating. It's kind of like a peninsula because one side is kind of.
It's tethered to the pillar.
Exactly. So it's.
But if it's, it requires the floating tech. If that were to be switched off, it would just fall down.
Yeah, true. But it's also, it's called Bad City because for some reason that's where all. I think they have different laws up there. It's like what you have some tax-free zones in some countries.
Yeah, and some laws you go out far enough to see. There are no laws basically.
And that's what they did there. For some reason it's high up enough, or just the laws are different in Indonesia. Bandar Lampung, I think it's
Sounds right.
officially called. And so that's where you get to do all kinds of things that are basically still illegal also there, but for some reason...
But they get away with it.
Yeah, they get away with it much more now. But what I like the most is the recent cities, they started discover the marketing potential.
Yeah, so they no longer have to put up, or not that they have to, so they no longer put up on the end, and on top of that, they have like contests or sponsorships for the names. So there are more interesting names.
If the contest is brilliant, everybody participates. You leave your contact details whenever the city, the house market opens up. They have like 300,000 people that participated in the contest to win whatever, and then it's to decide on a name. And then in the end, they pick whatever. But it's with I think with Fartberg.
That was a good name. Oh, that is a good name, Fartberg.
That they miscalculated it.
Well, I mean, in English, yeah. In German, it just sounds like a train mountain, I guess. But
I don't know what it means because it's in Denmark. I think.
Right. But in English, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, I probably in Danish it doesn't mean anything, but maybe that's how it got suggested in the first place. Because in Danish, maybe it just means
makes something. It sounds like a reasonable name.
Banana wagon, or I don't know what the Danish word is for that. But then they found out that the company building it was like automatically voting for one of their own names on a daily level. People found out, it was a big uproar, and then everybody voted for Fartberg and got into the news, and there was no way around it. So that's what it's called now. I don't even remember what the actual name was supposed to be according to the company.
Right, the respectable name.
But sometimes I can't get used to these sponsored city names, though.
Those are less elegant, like Kellogg's Cosmic Krispies in Finland.
Also,
I like Cosmic Krispies as much as anyone, but having a city named like that,
it's also... I even have a hard time pronouncing it. I can't I know that's the official name, Kellogg's Cosmic Krispies. I know most people just say Cosmic or something like that when they refer to it. But
and people from there are called Crisperinos. But still, as a name for a city, it's so bold. It's too long, and it has the brand name at the start.
Any official communications, Also, they had
the mayor of Kellogg's Cosmic Krispies, for example.
Didn't they have the Zweefball World Championship there? They
Last
sponsored
year.
it,
but
then it was all the time, welcome to the Zweefball Championship in Kellogg's Cosmic Krispies. Like nobody.
That's why they sponsor, or why Kellogg's named it that way, of course, because they get their name said over and over and over. But it's really
also the city signs and whatever. But it's okay. They paid for it, they sponsored. Otherwise, maybe the city wouldn't even been built or whatever. And then you go there, and then you have Cosmic Crispy shops and stuff like that. It's almost like a theme park where you can live, but then a theme park for Cosmic Krispies. Did it even exist before?
As a city, you mean?
Yeah, no, because they now have cereal named. I mean, Kellogg's is mostly...
I see what you mean. Did they make the cereal, like they made the city first and then made the cereal, or the other way around?
Because Kellogg's is mostly named for their games and sports.
Right, of course,
right?
and their hoverboards and stuff. So.
But I know they've been around for a long time. I'm just wondering if they came up with the name first and then made the cereal, or they have... Whatever.
I think, I mean, like you said, what they're well known for, it makes sense they would have made the city first and then realised, hey, that sounds kind of like a cereal name, a breakfast cereal name. Yeah. Let's make one.
Sounds more like a cereal than like a city.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's the worst example I can think of. But of course, they paid, so whoever opens their wallet gets to decide. Anything else we didn't?
We mentioned a lot of the nice things about them. But one downside is just if there's a really heavy storm and the city cannot move out of the way fast enough, because sure, they can go up and down a little side to side, but if it's too big a storm and they can't get out of the way, well then, they sway a whole lot.
Yeah, it can get pretty scary.
Yeah.
On the other hand, living below, you get much less of the storm. Like a lot of the wind and rain gets kind of blocked by the city above.
Yeah.
But being up there in a storm, wow, I've never experienced a real storm there.
I mean, like I say, usually they do move out of the way when they have enough warning, and it's just if it's so sudden and they don't have time to.
But I've seen some videos, so then, especially because it's swinging a lot, and especially if it's one of the cities with a lot of holes, you feel...
Yeah, and a lot of water. Some of them have a lot of water, and that goes sloshing over the sides. And then, the city below is blocked from the regular rain, but then a humongous a huge amount of water falls all in one moment.
And all the slides are turning into water slides.
Well, even the ones that aren't supposed to be.
Yeah, you wish we could control the weather, but...
maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Okay. Did we get any listener questions?
Not a question, but we did happily get a response, just confirming that one of our previous episodes had been received, nice and clear. And the message from Anita Burnson, and she says, "Hey." So, hello, Anita. That's it.
Okay. Hey, Anita. Thanks for emailing us.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate every single letter in that email. All three of them.
Yep. There was no full stop or exclamation mark, but that's okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we treat long emails, short emails just the same. Okay.
I think that's everything. I forget if I said earlier. We just mentioned the email now. So anyway, if you would like to email us, please do so by writing to michaellasagna5@gmail.com and putting into the subject the number 69, so we know you're replying to this, and say hey, or whatever you like.
Or so, or okay.
Or okay, yeah.
Exactly. Very popular words here in the 23rd century.
The most popular.
Then, everybody, thanks for listening, and see you in 200 years.
Bye-bye.